Well, hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Felling Night Live. I'm Owen Velciter.
I'm Cealdish Gambino.
And I thought that was Cealdish. Cealdish.
Cealdish.
Huh. Well, actually, I have a little clip pulled up here that I was shown.
Cealdish is hard. The language they speak, like Simon and Master Kilvin, are Cealdish. The country they are from, some people pronounce it the Ceald, or similarly they can be Cealdish or Cealdish.
Ah, see, I'm more apt to say Cealdish.
Yeah, I can go either way, but either way, I do not rap, so let that be known.
No, and I mean, I'm sure we're gonna find some kind of shorthand for like CG but it's pretty good,
Thanks.
Yeah. So first I guess we can kind of normally do announcements, but we'll just kind of talk generally about the podcast. There's not too many Kingkiller Chronicle podcasts that really just cover news and stuff just around Kingkiller Chronicle. I feel like a lot have the read-throughs and things of that nature. I was hoping we could, maybe get around doing some read-throughs. But what about you? You got any ideas on this thing?
No, not really. We could introduce how we've been introduced ourselves to the books.
Yeah,
if you want to do that.
That's a good idea. So I think I started out actually listening to, and if you're familiar with Acquisitions Inc., you may have heard some of the parts from the opening, but I got into listening to D&D podcasts for a little while, and I believe you recommended Acquisitions Inc. to me after I had listened to maybe like Fourth Grade Giant Hunters or something like that.
We're in like deep nerd territory right here.
Yeah. I mean, we're they say niche down, and we're niching way down into deep territory here. So if you're into Kingkiller Chronicles and listening to D&D podcasts, then man, you're in for a treat.
Good.
Yeah, we're not going to play any D&D for you, but we'll talk about D&D.
Gladly.
Yeah. So Pat, I guess, was a player. Was he in the first season, or I think he took over after Will Wheaton left, possibly?
I think that's the case.
So somewhere maybe season 3, Pat came on, and I was like, "Hey, this guy's pretty funny," and you were like, "He's written some books," and I was like, "Well, I probably won't read those." But no, I thought, well, he's pretty funny, so these probably kind of, I was thinking Terry Pratchett, Douglas Adams kind of books when I picked it up. But I was proven way wrong on that. How about you? How did you discover the series?
Probably about, I want to say like 8 years ago, maybe. I had a roommate that kind of introduced me to fantasy novels. I think he started off showing me like some standalone D&D stuff, like R.A. Salvatore. He writes a ton of D&D, like Forgotten Realms universe books.
Is that like Dragonlance, or is this later stuff?
Later stuff, I believe.
I remember seeing those floating around, but go on.
But yeah, basically just that. I mean, that and just some other fan. He got me into Song of Ice and Fire, around 8 years ago, around then.
Right on. Yeah, I just try to jump on stuff when it's trendy. It seemed like D&D was getting a resurgence from Stranger Things. And so
you gotta hop on that bandwagon.
You gotta hop on the bandwagon. I mean, you niche down on the bandwagon for sure, but you gotta hop on the bandwagon. So indirectly, I guess Stranger Things got me to read Pat's books.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's how it works. So another thing that I've noticed, or one thing that got me into the books also is the all the crazy fan theories, and especially I've really enjoyed Song of Ice and Fire, and I kind of started reading it at like a perfect time. Well, I mean, the HBO series had come out, and they had like a weekend that they had taken a break. I guess it was like Memorial Day weekend or something. And so I was like, well, I gotta. And so I just started reading the series. And by the time I got through Feast for Crows, Dance with Dragons was actually being released. So I got to read that at the same time everybody else was, and then speculate on what's going on and what'll happen in the next one. And well, I mean, here we are.
Yeah, those are great rabbit holes going down to go down.
Yeah. It scratches the old tinfoil itch, so to speak.
Definitely. Now, I haven't really gotten into many theories on Kingkiller, so you could maybe introduce me to some of the wild ones, down the road. For sure. And I know you've picked up on some just on a recent reread, that it took me. I basically read the books and I'm like, hey, this is like Harry Potter meets Real Genius. Like it's fun, it's kind of cool, but that's it. I get the basic frame story and like, hey, it's a guy and he can do things and play a guitar. But so a lot of the stuff really, really escapes me on the first read. And so I'll go like onto Reddit or some of these other forums and see what's going on. And man, I miss so much. So I know what to look out for on the next read. Do you have any opinions on like the magic within the books? Like, 'cause there's in fantasy, there's kind of like hard magic or soft magic where, soft doesn't really have any rules. It's kind of like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, and actually, Pat, I've heard him say at some point, and this is also a little bit like George Martin, or a little closer to it, where people might ask, like, hey, how does a dragon fly? And Pat, his answer to maybe a softer fantasy is just magic. It's magic. They just fly because it's magic. George Martin, I think he says that he's one of the first people in fantasy to take a dragon and not have arms on it, but the wings are substitute for arms. And I thought that was weird, but then I noticed that that's true. Most other depictions of dragons, they kind of have arms.
Yeah, that's
and
interesting.
Wings, and no animals have that. So much like each other. I hope this isn't a thing that continues, but that Pat, tries to. He gets even more down to it, where it's like a giant lizard. His dragons are.
Yeah, it's pretty much just a lizard, but it does actually breathe fire.
Yeah. So there's like, it's like his magic is explainable, and there's like things going on, and I've heard it referred to by somebody else maybe saying like he's done the work of the magic, like kind of done the math, I guess is the way he referred to it, and kind of worked out how it is, and hadn't revealed it all to us yet, but it's revealed a bit, but I guess we probably have a good another third of it to be revealed, maybe.
Yeah, it seems like he's definitely done the math on a lot of the stuff in the books, like the currency and all that. It's definitely fully worked out.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating too. Just all the different, like you said, the currency, the days, the dates, the months are all different.
Yeah. So what is a span a month? Is that what we kind of figure?
It's like, I guess is it there 2 weeks? Is it a fortnight?
I don't know exactly.
I mean, I think that maybe we can do that one week. Investigate some units of measurement. In the four corners. But one of the stories I think we were going to talk about is that about Pat's editor and what came out with that about, I guess it's been a month now, and I'm sure you've heard this, and that's that the editor came out, I believe, on Facebook and said they haven't seen a word of book 3.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So that doesn't sound very encouraging at all. And like there's a lot of people that are grumpy about not having book 3 yet, and it didn't help that they flipped out.
Yeah, like they do.
They do. It's kind of troubling almost how badly everybody wants this book, to the point that they're like, "Hey, Pat, don't die before you finish this book," and it's like that's not a compliment, guys.
Yeah, I mean, it on one hand, it kind of seems like a compliment. They're so enthused with it that they want that third book, but
But they're going about it the wrong way. So,
wrong way, yeah.
I kind of, it sucks for Pat, but I enjoy the pain of the rest of the fandom of just the gnashing of teeth over a book when there's so many other books available to read. The entire history of Western literature is available in ebook format nowadays. So
That's true. And also, I read a comment somewhere where they said that they would they laugh at their friends who start series that haven't been completed yet because of George R. R. Martin, and also The Wheel of Time, although that was completed but by a different author.
Oh, right.
But I always kind of feel like even if Pat doesn't finish the third book ever, the first 2 are just so good, like it's still worth reading even if we don't ever get the third.
Right. Yeah, I mean, up to a certain point I wonder if we're getting trolled and there's the third book is just silence. We're just not smart enough to catch on to it.
The silence in 3 parts. Yeah.
So but yeah, just to kind of go back a little bit, to quote what was posted to Facebook and then removed. So part of us, we're kind of telling tales out of school here, but hopefully that's what we'll do. But his editor is Betsy Wolheim, and
what's the last name?
Wolheim, Wolheim. Okay. And she had said that she hadn't seen a word of book 3, and that readers shouldn't feel entitled to dictate how Rothfuss spends his time. So this was in context of, hey, where's my novel?
Yeah. Yeah, where's my novel?
And so she's like, hey, readers, you all don't, please quit bothering him. But hey, as somebody who's given him an advance, can I get a book, I guess? And
if anyone gets a say in that, I guess it's her.
So she says, like, when authors don't produce, it basically it fucks their publishers, and saying that they rely on their strongest sellers to keep financially afloat, which and I think that brings up a good point here, which a lot of people are saying, well, he's promised everybody a trilogy, and although it's implied, I don't remember even at the beginning of the book it saying that, but like the first the second sentence that I ever read to the guy, by the guy, it says he's it's in the dedication, and he talks about his mother, and then he says that his father tells him that if he's going to do something, that he needs to do it right and take his time. That's like the second sentence I read by this guy. So for the fact that he's taking like 10 years or more to come out with a sequel, I mean, I waited for how long after Return of the Jedi for it to be disappointed by the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
So I know what it's like, and I'm ready to be disappointed, but also I'm willing to give the guy, a good 15, even 20 if he wants to. But, I would like to see the book, but hey, if it never comes, I'm good. And, we can just keep speculating until we're, in rocking chairs and, on the front porch at the Cracker Barrel.
Makes me wonder if a lot of it is just trying to get that third day, everything that he needs to get into that third day in there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel almost like it needs to take a sudden turn in the middle of the novel to even finish.
Because he's at the beginning of the book as Coat, as the owner of that establishment.
Yeah.
He's, I guess, like mid to late 20s.
Yeah, I mean he's a young guy. And,
He's still young,
and
but
looks
he's not
young too. Yeah.
University level, age 15, where we are when we left him in the books.
No. I mean, I don't know if they nailed down an age, but I mean, is he past 26? Has he had his empathy chip installed yet? Like, is he kind of grown? I don't feel like he is.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's got to be weird to have this young dude just show up to your small town and buy up or build. I think he said he bought the Waystone.
Yeah.
So
and I do remember it. I forget if it was from a character's point of view, but it said like if you look closely at him, you can see he's a lot younger than he.
Yeah.
He's a lot younger than he appears at first.
Yeah. It's strange.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's probably a lot that they can reveal. And, of course it's going to be like a Shakespeare play where, people are in disguise and this guy's that guy and they got confused and actually I think I probably here in a bit we'll do maybe do some insane theories, and I've got a great insane theory for our insane theory bit. But back to management versus workers, where I think Pat may see himself as the worker, and I wouldn't say he's withholding his novel to try and get more money, because it doesn't sound like he's really reached out for more money,
mm-hmm.
and he probably doesn't need it. But he is he like Quoth? Is he withholding his song like from Florian, where and we're just being driven crazy, wanting that, but
it's speculation at this point.
Yeah, make hay while the sun is shining. Though he's already been paid for this book. He needs to get some money otherwise, because I would imagine going on book tours or whatever he'll get from that isn't what he gets from trying to get out there and networking and meeting people and trying to get TV deals or trying to get a movie deal or get a something off the ground. And I don't think anybody, even barely gives him that benefit of a doubt. If they do, it's just like, well, he's running a charity, and he does, and he raises a lot of money. But also, if he wants to get out there and try and hustle out and make some money for himself,
Yeah, I can't judge him for that.
Not at all. I mean, George Martin wants to run a movie theater, and I'm like, if I had the means to run a little movie theater out in New Mexico, I would be all about it. So, yeah.
What is Pat's charity?
It's I think it's called World Builders, and
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of it. Yeah,
he will do a lot of gaming, streaming kind of stuff to charitable streams to raise money. I imagine it's for sick children, but I'm pretty woefully. I don't know their mission, honestly.
That's okay.
Yeah, no, yeah, but I think Pat's doing all right, and I'm okay with him kind of holding out.
Yeah,
on his novels, even at this point. I just think that if you believed that somebody was going to punch out a novel a year and not do anything else with their lives, in your what a brokerage firm might call your best earning years, it'd be kind of silly to do that.
Yeah, I don't think he's holding out on purpose. Honestly, it just doesn't seem like his personality or something that he would do just based on hearing him talk and the way he is. I think it's more of a perfectionist.
Yeah, and actually, I have kind of a whole spiel I can go on even more about this, where I think Pat in his on his blog, he had at one point he nominated Betsy for a Hugo Award, and he had said he had basically he on his blog he made a post called "I Love My Editor," and it's from 2012, and he says things like that, when he turned in his rough draft for Wise Man's Fear, that it was real rough, where he would have like an entire chapter, just below the chapter heading is just Ambrose does something this chapter, and that she and not until he turned in this really, really rough, in some places almost an outline, and he's like, I'm just going to pound through it, and it's just not, you need sometimes some second set of eyes, but I don't know whether he's afraid that I could see, I'd be afraid to even email it. I mean, George Martin's got the right idea. He works off an old 386 or something. Like he's got like an old Atari 800 XL that he's doing his
completely offline.
It's being saved to cassette tape because I mean, you don't have the chance of it, falling into the wrong hands.
Yeah,
but
can't be too careful.
I know he has his trusted readers, but I could see it being super, super rough, and I could also see where he's like, I got to change it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that right now what probably, hopefully is happening is that, she's taken that down, and hopefully everybody's kind of buried the hatchet, and maybe he has realized that, she's there for him, and that even if he just has like the ending written, or just even calls her on the telephone and says, hey, this is how I want to end it, I think that they could, come to something and get something out together. And it's not because I'm, again, dying for it. It's almost like for Pat's well-being. I want him just to get this off of his back.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
so basically it seems like, he used, or, had her help him in the last book, but this one, they haven't seen a word of it. So he's been on his own on this one.
Yeah. I mean, he's just, and also again, like I said, he's probably been, trying to do his own thing. And I just can't blame him, because that's how I discovered his novels. So I may not even have read them, and there's probably a lot of people that are like me that heard about him just through general fandom. Yeah,
I would like to have seen those very, very rough drafts. Like what you said, like Ambrose does this. It would just be Ambrose as a jackass in this chapter.
Well, did I tell you that when I visited Seattle a couple summers ago, that one of the museums there, and I think it was the Museum of Popular Art. I'll so poorly sourced here, but anyways, a museum there had a fantasy installation. It also had a Muppets installation, but it had like from film and TV, books. It had like kind of. It went so far back, maybe just as like Wizard of Oz.
Oh wow!
And kind of forward. And George Martin, Game of Thrones, all through all that, and off right was a little spot for Pat Rothfuss, and it was talking, and it was about, well, obviously, the Kingkiller Chronicle, and it was his first draft of the first like page.
Oh wow!
And I took a picture of it. It was a terrible photo, but.
I think you may have showed it to me at one point, but I forget.
And I forget. It was called. It was very close to A Song of Ice and Fire. It was like a song of. Oh man!
So it became like The Silence in 3 parts, but it was something.
Yeah, it was something else, and this is why we'll have an episode 2. We'll come back and correct some of these, and hopefully, you guys will let us know somehow. Oh, which we'll probably plug our Twitter here after a while, and you can tell us how wrong we are.
Yeah, we might as well plug it now.
Okay. Yeah, I am. Well, you could. Our podcast is Felling Night, and my personal handle is Owen Velciter,
and mine is at Cealdish Gambino. That's CEA. I actually don't know how to pronounce it right now.
Wow.
How to spell it.
We're really poorly sourced. So what you'll want to do is
it's CEALDISH.
Yeah,
Gambino.
And Velciter it's spelled how it sounds. I think it's a citer.
Yeah, that one's pretty easy.
VELCITER.
Yeah.
And we have some social media out there that guys can rail against our ideas on. So the museum, they had the first page, and for one, yes, it was named different. It kind of had a different name totally, and next to it, he also had units of measurement. So he did have like a chart of like how long a month was, or a span. So I say this, but there are ways to find out that he has probably some keys written down somewhere else that kind of unlocks things like, alchemy, which I definitely don't understand in the book.
I remember, this is just kind of offhand, but you mentioned keys unlocking things, and at one point, one of the things that Ari gives Kvothe is a key that unlocks the moon. I just thought that was interesting.
Oh,
but
wow.
It was an actual physical key, so I wonder if that will ever come back up.
Oh, I'm sure. Maybe that has to do with. There's so many theories, about the moon and Jax and Haliax and
yeah, because on the pottery at Mothin's farm, the girl that had seen it.
Yes.
She describes as seeing, basically, obviously, it's some of the Chandrian, but one of them was clearly Haliax, the one that's close with, you can't, shadow in his face, and it had the moons, like the progression of the moon above him.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like that's significant in some way.
Yeah, it is. I am so out in the woods when it comes to any of the creation war, any of the early mythology. I'm really down with the frame story. I want to know about Skraels and stuff, but when it comes to trying to decipher who the Chandrian are and who they relate to back in the creation war, because people are changing their identities in the middle of the creation war.
Yeah.
Just to make it even more confusing for dullards like myself.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, it's there's so many different things, and we're totally left hanging on, which is great.
Yeah, especially Skrael. That's
Yeah.
What the heck?
I know. And when you first describe them, they sound, very scary, but, like crabs, you wonder, would they be good eating? And after they, burn it, you realize, no, probably not. Skrael meat isn't probably good.
And they also, Skrael, when they're on fire, when they're being burned, they smell like rotting flowers and burning hair. I just noticed anytime one is burning, Pat uses those exact words to describe them. So
I wonder what if that relates back to another. That's one thing that's great about the Kindle version, is you can just take that phrase and then copy and paste it and search it.
I did notice anytime Kvothe is recalling his family, the tragedy with his family, he always remembers burning hair. The smell of burning hair always comes up whenever he thinks back on it.
Yeah.
So that's another interesting kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's not a pleasant. It's not a pleasant smell by any means, but yeah, there's things that smell. There's also like phrases to besides just describing smells, but that come up, like cut flower. That comes up in the a cut flower, like a man waiting to die.
Okay.
The patient cut flower sound, I believe, and it's talking about the silence in three parts.
Oh, okay.
But it's also used later in where it's the when they're using the birds to try and test if the mare is being poisoned.
Okay.
And so they have these birds, and he refers to them like cut flower, as like they're just have this small shelf life because they've poisoned.
And they're
But
just waiting to die. Okay.
yeah. And so, it's really interesting to draw even those parallels of phrases, much less of names of people that, I think those are seemingly important. And it seems to be pretty, to a certain point, you get where everything means something and everything's a theory and everybody's a fake somebody else.
Sure, but yeah, it does seem like he's very specific, Pat Rothfuss is, in his language, so it makes sense to draw those kind of draw those parallels. And
right, yeah, and I forget where he says it, but he talks about just, you're going to benefit from the second read, and that, when you go back and, even reread it the third time, but once you read the third book, basically you'll have to go back and reread everything else again, because it'll inform so much else that, is questionable. Just like Denna has some questionable backstory. Like, I always thought it was super weird that she up and met him, on that. Right? Didn't she meet him on a wagon before he even really met her?
Yeah, it was when he was leaving Tarbine, and just he didn't. I think at that point he didn't know where he was going to go. But he was like, I'm going to the university, I guess, or that direction."
Right. He had gained his senses back. He stopped being so animalistic, I guess, and
that was when he kind of started to realize his own intelligence, where he before he left Tarbine, he had that book that Abinthe had given him, and he pawned it off to the guy, and the guy didn't think, he sees this ruffian come in, obviously he stole this nice book, and he tries to kind of swindle the kid, but Quoth can actually read what he had written down. I think he asked for a receipt. And the guy was like, "Yeah, sure. Here's a receipt." And the receipt just said, like, "You're an idiot that can't read," or something like that.
Yes.
And he was like, "Yeah, I can read that." So, and then he made him. He basically the shopkeeper was like, "You write out the receipt." So he wrote the receipt and put down 1 penny instead of 1 talent to return it.
Yeah.
And so he pawned it for a talent, I believe, and the receipt said just 1 silver penny could get it back.
Nice. So that was kind of also. There's so much that we just don't know, especially from that period of his life where. And I don't know that we ever will, but he definitely is blocking out periods for a reason, or something's happened. But I think you were telling me the other day on your reread that something Denna had said when she had, I think it was when they were going to try and stop the Dracus.
Yes.
Which again, he didn't take her with him to go fight the Dracus, to go with the Dracus, right?
Kind of, like they went off together to look for her patron, who's still a mystery,
right?
To Quoth, and because he had disappeared right before the big attack on the farm.
Yeah, and
so they went looking for him, and instead they camped out up on a hill, I suppose. Yes. And then that's when like the Dracus came towards them. And
is that related to the wedding?
Yeah, because that was right after the wedding.
Man, there's a lot. I mean, really,
and that's how they basically, when Quoth came back and saved the day, they kind of, they kind of tied the dragon into what happened at the farm instead of the Chandrian.
Right. Man, it's insane how much is tied back, and I think. She gets an overdose of the dinner resin.
Yeah, she doesn't realize it's resin and just put something random in her mouth, I guess.
I mean, I do that a lot. I mean, maybe in college, you didn't have Google, you didn't know, you found a pill on the ground, you just pop it. You just take it,
Just take it and hope for a good time.
You roll the dice, the old party dice, and just hope for the best.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But yeah, a couple things kind of happen when she's on resin. One is when she basically mentions offhand, like, it's my job to I can't remember exactly. Well, it's
like
my
to
job to
notice
notice
things
things
about
about you.
Yeah,
Yep.
which what she has a job like
And it's kind of said in like a way that's kind of like, oh, we're just having flirty kind of talk back and forth to each other. But
yeah.
it's also one of those things where, of course, Pat's so deliberate in his language, just kind of odd that
Yeah.
she would say that.
It is. It's
And then she does. She also says something like a name in her sleep while she's on resin. I forget what the name is, but
oh wow.
I don't know. It was some name that might be. I can't recall.
She's
it now,
up.
but
She's up to something.
She's up to something.
Now, I think a lot of people, it goes back and forth. If she's evil, she's bad for Kvothe. She is. She's definitely trouble that away.
Moteth is the name that she says in her sleep.
Moteth. I've got a crazy theory on that, but I'll save that for our next episode, where I think that Kvothe isn't even the full part of Kvothe's name, and that's why it's a very weird name, and everybody else has normal names like Will and Simon and things of that nature. And he's Kvothe.
Kvothe, yeah.
And so I might have to dig in on that, but I'd recently. And I will have to go back anytime I do a for real theory and cite my sources. But this one, I forget where I read it. Probably on Reddit, and it was that his name isn't at all what we think it is, and it's definitely not Coat. Obviously, we know that, but it's not Kvothe either. And so it's a real interesting way to go. So those are kind of a cursory look at a couple of sane theories, I suppose you could say. Like Dinah, definitely something maybe is going on with her that we're not privy something's
to.
up. I mean, she's either Amir or she's Chandrian, or she's both, or she works for the library, which that's actually a kind of a little topic I wouldn't mind going down, which is the Viari character. If you would indulge me for a few minutes, he is obviously, I believe, he's in acquisitions. Yeah, which this again, makes my antenna go up since I started in on Acquisitions Inc. And I thought to myself, well, what is that? What's that character that Pat plays on Acquisitions Inc.? Oh. It's Viari.
It's Viari.
Yeah, and who is this Viari character? Well, he's like pretty swashbuckling. He's got knives and daggers and swords. Mm-hmm. Does he have red hair?
I don't think it mentions.
Okay, but big spoiler here. And if you've made it this far into our podcast, we assume you've read it. Both books, and
although I guess you don't have to have read them to listen to our podcast.
No, I'm sure we make all the sense in the world to people who have not read these books and aren't familiar with Dungeons and Dragons,
of course.
But Viari, he seems more like the action movie hero type out there, Indiana Jones style, finding books and relics and stuff like that. And when we're talking about when people are hiding knowledge and trying to keep knowledge of the Chandrian hush hush, and even Ben, who's one of the few people that we've heard from the university talk about them, he's like, keep it hush hush. Don't. We just don't. It's bad luck at best. It's just dumb, and don't do it. So this Viari guy's out there. He's getting into some of the shit.
Yeah, he's on the ground.
Yeah,
in the world.
And something that not until we were talking about this the other day, was that I went back and reread the Viari part, and he says one family to Kvothe, which means he is a Demerant.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Which is just too mind-blowing. But now Kvothe couldn't just run after him and talk to him, which it's hard to imagine that he had that kind of self-control. But what this was, the meeting he had was hinging on whether or not he could get into the library.
Although he didn't have like a set time that he was supposed to meet with them. He just kind of walked up and was like,
"Oh man,
you know.
don't tell me that."
So yeah, he definitely had a chance to kind of at least walk along with Viari and get some more info there.
He's just too starstruck, man.
Yeah.
He's just like, man, that's a sexy man. Right
Yeah,
there.
it's kind of describes it as him being like when he announces himself as Edamaru, or however you pronounce that.
Yeah,
that he was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I mean, and he also recognized Kvothe as a different, possibly a different nationality.
Oh yeah, Yillish.
Yeah, right. Which is, man, that's a whole nother rabbit hole of Yillish knots and Yill. So, you know.
But again, it's like one of those things where Pat uses such specific language and he puts that in there. It's got to have some meaning. Well,
and now I don't remember which book that's in, but the only other use of one family outside of his troop is the fake Rue. But come on, man, Viari ain't gonna be fake Rue. No, don't. But it just, I guess, I know Master Lorne. I think that's who is in charge of the library. Mm-hmm. He had an interesting quote, and I think Pat has said outside of the books. I don't think it said in the books, but he was interested in talking to Kvothe and having a relationship because he wanted to copy down some songs that Arladin had been working on, or which also makes me think maybe he wanted to interrogate him over the Chandrian song.
Interesting.
Because I mean, he heard that song, right? Or was he out screwing around and missed hearing the song? He was screwing around and missed the song, or he's forgotten it.
At which point?
I don't. Like back, by the when his parents sing the song.
Oh, because that was at he was there but it wasn't the full song. It was just it was
enough.
It was at Abinthy's like going away party.
Right.
And they everyone was like, "Come on, let's hear some of it."
So it wasn't even like a immediate thing.
No, it was like the first paragraph of the song, like an introduction to it. Like, this is going to be a song about Lanry and the Chandrian.
And so Ben, he was like, "I gotta bounce out of here and go hook up with my Chandrian boys, and come back and put the kibosh on this scene and say I begged them not to say anything, and yet they did." Or I mean, that's.
I mean, they clearly have spies everywhere, or some other way of knowing whenever someone mentions them or sees something about them or reads something about them, they wipe them out.
Yeah, and I think good and bad is getting played a lot here on us, the reader, but also here in existence, that things are a lot more gray. That Kvothe may very well not be a good guy at all, or that.
He does say that on occasion. It'll seem kind of sarcastic, but he'll say stuff like, and I'm not a gentleman, I'm a thief.
Yeah. No, and it's not like he's just playing it up like, yo, I'm gangsta.
Yeah, exactly.
I think he means it. But I guess that would bring me maybe to an insane theory, which would be, this is there's a YouTube channel, and I think it's called the Elodian. Is that the name of the bar that?
Aeolian. I think is how it's pronounced.
The Aeolian, and they had this was Pat from an event, and he has it looked as though it was like a Magic type card game that was based on the Kingkiller Chronicle.
Interesting.
And what he had done was he had laid out the different kind of roles that a player would have, and one was Namer, and one was like, Seek the Wind, and one was Fae. So it was like you've got a young Faean person who has come out into the world and has gone. He's part Fae. Did I say part Fae? Part Fae.
Part Fae.
And come out into the parfait. Come out into the world, and become a namer at the university. and that it was Elodin's backstory.
Yes, that
And
was big. Big.
Yeah, so I'll try and try and get over there and check that out. But yeah, a big spoiler for book 3. We got those here. But my theory on that is that, you know, if he's part Fae, then I think, you know, somehow Bast, they have to be related. If not, of course, the same person, right? Because everybody's somebody.
Yeah.
But, you know,
That would be kind of a wild thing if they ended up being the same. I don't think they are, but
no,
that would be pretty wild.
I don't either. And people say, well, he says that his name is Son of Rimmon at some point, that he's a prince. And I'm like, well, that doesn't. Maybe that's his Fae name.
I wonder if the masters at the university know that Elodin's part Fae.
I highly doubt it.
You think they're in the dark?
Well, from Chronicler's reaction to seeing Bast for the
that's
first
true.
time, he seemed pretty quick on the draw of going straight to, I'm going to try to murk this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
Being
just
very afraid.
It wasn't just like, oh, hey, man, is it cool if you have do you normally have Fae in here, man? It's, you know, really, really racist. Honestly, they're racist at the university against the Fae.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder, you know, do we know if any of the Chandrian are Fae or part Fae as well?
Now, see, there's something to that, because Florian talks about, you know, the time before the world split. So, you know, who was there? You know, what was there? And you know, apparently, you know, I guess the splitting of the world was during the creation war, or a cause of it. So far, I know so little about the creation war, and also I think we said we. I'm going to say this a lot. We talked about this outside of the show, but I cannot believe that the first video that Captured in Words, the YouTube channel, did about Kingkiller Chronicle was the creation war, and trying to explain that. It's like, that's a lot of heavy lifting, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm nowhere near knowledgeable enough on that either.
No, I might be able to read a description of a Scrael to you on a YouTube video, but I would never be able to explain the creation war. But I can, you know, expound on some, you know, crazy theories that I pick and choose from. Mm-hmm. And I selectively remember parts and forget other parts to make my theory work.
That works.
Yeah, it does. It normally does. But yeah, so I think that if he's not related, I think that Elodin will show up to the Waystone book 3 somewhere along the line,
and they'll know each other.
Yeah, like he's
Bast.
Something. There's something going on, but I mean, Bast is obviously bad too. He grabs Chronicler at the, you know, he heel turns real quick on it. And yeah. So, you know, I think that Coat or Kvothe, you know, is allowing Bast to play his games, but I don't know that he's in on them. Like, yeah, especially, you know, with freaking Chronicler out and putting the Holly crown on him and being like, I own you now. yeah,
he definitely put some sort of Fae spell on him, or, you know, his own entrapment there on him.
Yeah, and obviously this is the Kingkiller Chronicle, and we've got a character named Chronicler. It's not the, you know, Kingkiller Kvothe books,
or even the Kingkiller trilogy,
right? So it's definitely, this is Chronicler's story, and I would like to think that this is going to, you know, Chronicler kind of plays the part of Kvothe here in the beginning of being, you know, somebody doesn't know things yet. Like, he doesn't know about the Fae yet. He wouldn't know how to recognize them hiding in their legs and stuff until, I mean, he kind of noticed it out of the corner of his eye, and I think now going forward he'll always notice it.
Yeah.
But it's just a knowing thing.
What's it called? Glamoring?
Is that, let's see, there's glamoury and grammary, and I think glamoury is making things appear as such, is how it's defined, and grammary is making things be, which they sound basically the same, which I think they all interrelate, and we can kind of talk about that here on the maybe an upcoming episode, because how the magics all interrelate is super interesting, and we'd be remiss not to talk about that. That's the good stuff
For sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy to think that I guess I've just gone on and decided it's not a Kvothe story. This is Chronicler's story, and he's the real hero of the day, and he's kind of coming in with fresh eyes and doesn't know really. I mean, he knows a lot. He knows the name of iron, so he knows about naming, which is big. I mean, that's like, you could be great at chemistry and artificery and all kinds of stuff and still not be good at naming.
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
And Kvothe even says, which I don't know if it's at that point we're looking at Kvothe or Kote if he switches back and forth, but I guess we're looking at. He says that Chronicler is one of the X number of people that know the name of iron. Meaning he doesn't, I think, is what, or it seems like he doesn't.
Yeah.
And maybe he does, but there's just a handful of people that know that one. So it's maybe one of the harder ones to name.
Yeah, it seems like even the masters, they know probably maybe one or two, but I think during my reread, the most recent thing I read in this, I'm rereading through, and I don't know, maybe 200 pages into the second book, which the second book is exactly 1,000 pages, which is interesting.
That's interesting.
But the last part I'd read, he had asked Elksdal, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
He asked him how many words he knew.
Yeah.
And he was put off for a second because it's kind of a rude thing to ask.
Like, hey, how many people have you slept with?
Yeah, it was like that's how he equated it too.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'll let you know. I know two. One of them is fire. So we don't know the other one, but we know at least him. He knows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, you think like Kilvin might benefit from knowing iron.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Iron and fire would be maybe his too.
It would be, but it just makes you think, like, if it's not a common win, and Bast is probably, he says that his people don't make good choices sometimes, and I think he's gonna probably regret messing with Chronicler, because he does know the name of iron, and put him down really quickly remotely, and
he's clearly a very, very smart and witty himself, the Chronicler, and he even, when he was on the road at the beginning, and he comes across the I guess some Kingsguard or whatever, just some rough some ruffians, but they were thieves, part of the soldiers. He kind of tricked them into him giving away as little as he needed. He
got to keep all his ink, his stuff, and then he had
hidden money everywhere,
hidden money in his shoe or something. So he's a clever guy. And he seemed to kind of hold his own for a second against the Skrael even. So, I mean, if you walk everywhere, it's good for your health. It's good for your constitution. It raises your hit points, apparently. But I also like, and I'd probably like to, maybe deep dive. This whole podcast is going to be talking about how everything should be a deep dive, but we should probably deep dive sometime on the Chronicler and the story that Bast and Kvothe make up on him to the villagers, where they say, there's a guy that can write your name in the book, and have control over you, and he's after a princess's hand, and he has like a sword made of paper. Like it's all gold right there, and I think that maybe kind of pretends the future for him is that he will be a person of renown. Which I didn't really want to think we were going to go down the chronicler rabbit hole, but his age, it doesn't make sense.
Oh, what is it?
He's older than Quoth, but
Okay.
and I guess there's plenty of people that would be older than Quoth and also have gone to the university because he went so young. But I think the implication is that Chronicler was of renown before he went to the university, like as if he went to the university, maybe not as a retirement thing, but kind of, he didn't need to keep being
a person of note.
Yeah, but I guess that's you're not going to learn the name of iron out
in the real world.
No, you gotta go to the university for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chronicler, he's pretty important to all this.
I also do hope that, Will and Sim and maybe even Manette, or however you pronounce his name, the guy who's been at the university forever, I hope they turn up again later too.
The eternal student. And that's going to kind of bring me to the last topic I wanted to get to, which is the One Shot podcast. Have you heard of this?
I think you've mentioned it to me before, but I don't know much about it.
It's a podcast, and it's hosted. I think his name's I'm going to get it wrong. I think it's Joe D'Amato, and he does games, one shot. Pretty much like not each podcast is a different game, but it might be a series of a few podcasts in a row. But he one shots games. Role playing, different games like that.
So each game will take up at least one episode usually,
right? Or span a couple episodes. But he did a series with Pat Rothfuss, and it just wrapped up.
Oh, cool.
So that's actually, I was going to propose to you that we do a breakdown of those maybe next episode where we can just get familiar with it. But it's a role-playing game that Pat's working on that's set in Temerant, the Four Corners. And it's got a different mechanic. It's not a D20-based game. It seems to be like it's a coin-based game, and like copper pennies, I guess, is the idea. And I think it's like you have 3 pennies is what you use for your... sometimes you just flip 1, sometimes you flip 3.
Okay.
Is what it seems like. And I've only listened to the first episode, so I may have the mechanics totally wrong because they only rolled it or flipped a few times.
So they flip instead of roll, basically.
Yeah, and it's about some university students. Pat plays one, and there's a few other characters, and obviously, the podcast host plays another one. I think there's 5 total people in the party, and they are it's kind of based around admission time is what the first episode is, and them getting horrible draws and kind of deciding that maybe a few of them, if not all of them, need to go chase the wind for a semester so they can get out and go adventuring like as one does in these games.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so it's called the One Shot Podcast. It's easy enough to find. But I figure that'd be something fun to do. Maybe on the next episode, which kind of gets us to. I think we could probably wrap this one up. I think we've this has been our first episode, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.